Hello and welcome to the Mile High Church podcast. Join us and some very special guests as we dive in together, open our hearts and get real to discuss what we've been thinking about. Hey, this is Barry. We're back with what we're thinking about. I got my friends Linda and Kay here with me. Good morning.
Good morning.
And today we're talking about laughter, which is one of my favorite things, how laughter affects our souls and how laughter affects ourselves. And I think it's good. There's been a lot of research done on this over the years. I know that I call this the Groucho Marx School of Research, that it's good for us to laugh and not take ourselves so seriously. And I know a lot of times you're working with people who have serious stuff going on and you're trying to get them to lighten up. So what's the basic idea of why laughter helps us? Why is it?
There are so many answers to that question, but I think that laughter helps us because it addresses the stress response. And so what we see in the healing ministry is that about 80% of all illnesses have a connection to stress.
Yeah.
And I know you talk a lot about the stress that comes from work. And I remember back in the day, we would ask people, how are you doing? Fine. And now you say to someone, how are you doing? Busy. Mm-hmm. And that's their most frequent comeback that I hear. And so people are stressed out, especially people with kids and schools and jobs and all of that. So taking time for laughter, and sometimes it has to be taking the time. It has to involve a little bit of effort sometimes to get enough humor in your life. But when you do that, it benefits you on the cellular and the cellular level.
Cool.
It's like having a clenched fist and then you laugh and it releases. And so what that does is flood your body with the good hormones of release, of letting tension go. Your organs get a little bit of a workout from the physicality of laughing, and it benefits you mind, body, and spirit.
Okay.
And that's fun.
Great. So how do you get your groups going? How do you get your groups going and get them laughing?
Well, let me say one other thing that it does for your body that is really important, and that is that it takes breath. And so breath is really, in some ways, the first go-to if you want to support your own healing. And so when you laugh, you just have to take more breath. And so it fills the body up with the breath, and that's the first thing that can happen that downplays the stress. So yeah, that's a good one. Well, Linda and I don't plan stuff like jokes or anything like that. This particular support group, honestly, they bring it in themselves. Mm-hmm. And they kid each other. And sometimes we have to say, okay, everybody, we're going to pray now. And, calm down. Okay, I'm going to mute you all. That's really perfect. That's one of the best things about Zoom.
Yeah.
When you're the leader, you can put the mute button on.
Yeah.
I don't care what they're doing anymore now. Nobody can hear them.
That's a great feature.
So it works. So that part of it is organic. However, but neither Linda nor I are experts in this, but we did bring somebody into the group a couple of weeks ago who actually does teach something they call laughter yoga. Now, does that mean that they do yoga with laughter?
Yes, it really does. And so what this wonderful lady, Alice, was teaching us was that you get all the benefits of yoga and all the benefits you get from laughing combined. And so, as in yoga, we know there's a lot of proper breathing and practice of the breath. And then she led us through nonsensical things like clapping and then laughing, or expelling all your air and then laughing. And it's infectious. So pretty soon everyone in the group is laughing. And that's one of the other key benefits, is that laughter binds people together. Mm-hmm. And it's a commonality of we all think that was funny. And so again, it addresses any sense of separation, because in the oneness, you're laughing together, you're supporting each other, you're sharing something. It means you're having meaning and mattering, to one another, which I find so important.
Yeah, and I think too, just groups that I've been in teaching classes and stuff, if you can get people to laugh, you can get them to go deeper too. And I think that it just kind of opens up our whole framework that then we're willing to go deep because there's stuff going on with all of us. And in a group, it's a great opportunity to share, but I think laughter really breaks the ice and humanizes us so that we have that opportunity to go deeper without being afraid of it. Like it's this big darkness that we can't go to, and I think laughter helps us with that. Yeah.
Now, you're naturally funny.
Well, it's a condition, and I deal with it. But I go to a group, It helps with that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Some people are not naturally funny. And we will hear this feedback from time to time that people say, well, I am more somber or I have a more serious personality, but I would like to lighten up. So what would you suggest for people who want to lighten up?
Well, I think you got to look at what are things that you find funny. What makes you laugh? What are things that you make that it kind of loosen you up and make you laugh and do more of that. There's a lot of things that we do because we have so much media and entertainment that people watch things that are funny, but life itself is funny. And I think that that's the thing about the group. If we can laugh at each other and laugh at ourselves, I think that's the best part of it, right? That we don't have to be entertained from the outside, that we're funny folks. We are. Life is funny. And the spiritual context, we always say that God has a sense of humor. She does, and it's obvious with just the way that we were created that God has a sense of humor. And so I think that when you get into a group, just having the opportunity for people to loosen up, I think is great because we carry the anxiety, the tension of our diagnoses or what's wrong with us. We have a tendency to focus on what's wrong with us and go in that direction. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a podcast called Cancer is No Laughing Matter, and it's hilarious. And I think that, flies in the face of most people thinking, well, that's a life sentence when you have the cancer word applied to you.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I mean, even within that serious of a situation, there can be moments of great upliftedness and great hilarity. I remember I was done with chemo, but I wasn't much past it. And my grandson went to Sunday school here, and afterwards he came out and he said, Gran, did you know this? People are just God with skin on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still laughing. It's years later. But I just think it is everywhere if we're willing to see it. And so what Kay and I sometimes do for people who say, well, I'm a serious person, we say, well, don't be. Find things that you think are funny, which is to your point. And there are a lot online. I mean, I ask Alexa for joke of the day. Don't you guys? I mean, it's usually a knock-knock kid joke, but it's still funny. I watch America's Funniest Home Videos because it cracks me up. And I know that there are short-term benefits to laughter in the moment. I'm oxygenating my cells, like Kay said. But even 45 minutes later, I know scientifically there's a benefit from laughter because I'm still circulating endorphins. Yeah. So it's good short-term and long-term.
Well, I remember when Bernie Siegel came here, and he came here with his wife, and he wrote that book, What to Do Between Office Visits, and he talked a lot about cancer and recovery and all that. And before he gave his talk, his wife would get up and do 15 minutes to just stand up with these old-time jokes, And at first you're like, oh, my God. But then, everybody just starts laughing, right? And she just keeps rolling. She just keeps rolling. And the whole place is laughing. And everybody that's in there has a serious diagnosis.
Yes.
But then he gets up and talks, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's like, okay, now we can talk about that.
Yes.
And I thought that was great because it just, let's not take ourselves so seriously. You guys are really taking the charge off of those words and off those diagnoses so people can have the opportunity to breathe and heal.
Mm-hmm. Kay, do you remember the time we were having healing class in the little sanctuary and people were laughing about something and a church employee opened the door because he heard the laughter and he said, I thought this was the group for the sick people. And then he closed the door and walked away. It was Greg Moss, but it was hilarious. He couldn't believe we were in there cracking up, but
Yeah.
we were because it's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple things that I want to share. One is a personal example of just a craziness that I did when I was going through my cancer thing. I have a friend who actually collects puns, collects jokes. Sometimes they're just awful, but she is not afraid to bring it out, no matter any time or place. She'll have something to say. She told me one I could use in this podcast, and I read it over and I thought, I don't think I can use this one. This is not a good one. But anyway, she gave me a whole series of books. Stephanie Plum, murder mystery thingamajigs. The woman is a bail bondsman in New Jersey. I mean, you can just imagine. It's just a crazy. Her roommate is a hamster named Rex, who mostly lives in a soup can. I mean, okay, on and on. So when I had to go through radiation, which was every morning for like 6 weeks, every 5 days, 6 days a week. So I go over to the hospital. I'm sitting in this room. The table is filled with books about how to knit little caps for your head when you lose all your hair, or how to deal with this and that. It was all about cancer and radiation. And I had my book, and I would laugh. I would sit there and laugh as I was waiting to go in to have the radiation treatment. Every day, I looked forward to going, and occasionally there was somebody else there. Usually not quite so many people, but I just read them anyway, and it was one of the most, frankly, it was one of the most lovely gifts that I got during that period of time. But I never forgot it. I thought it was a choice. It was a choice. You know, I'm not going to sit there and think, you know what, this hurts. Mm-hmm. This is getting redder and redder and more beaten up by this radiation. I just made a choice. I'm not going to do that. So, speaking of old-fashioned jokes, I love this one, and it's very relevant to our healing discussion today. So, just pretend that this is kind of a joke from, the 70s. So, man and woman go into a service station. He was a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, so of course he was dressed in a suit and so forth, and she was dressed to reflect his status. While he's in the gas station, she's outside talking to the gas station attendant, and they're giggling and carrying on and really talking quite intimately. So then pretty soon the husband notices that. He comes out, he gets in the car, and he drives away, and pretty soon he can't stand anymore. And he said, "You were talking to that station attendant. Did you know him?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, actually, I do know him. As a matter of fact, we went to high school together, and really, truth to tell, he was the first person I ever kissed." And the husband thought, stuck out his chest and said, "Well, aren't you glad you married me? If you'd married him, you'd be married to a service station attendant." And she said, "Oh, no, honey. If I were married to him, he'd be the CEO and you'd be the station attendant." Now, I not only love this joke, but I got to tell you the circumstances in which it was told. This was told by a religious science minister, Dr. Peggy Bassett. It was her last talk with her beloved congregation, which was a huge congregation, nearly as big as Mile High. And the reason that she used this joke and many other funny things in her talk was because, and the reason it was her last talk with her audience, with her congregation, was because she had been diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And so why did she do this? Well, she told the joke and used humor throughout her talk because it reduced the stress of everybody in the room was feeling, including her. Mm-hmm. She was also in stress. My last time, etc. People were sad, they were angry, they were afraid. Laughter reduced that stress. And then in the face of one of the cruelest diseases, she wanted to model that she could choose to laugh and give them permission to be able to do the same. So we're really challenged, can we do that? Can we do that? Facing really difficult circumstances, can we choose to have laughter?
Well, one of the things you're big on is the science of it. I love that we're science people, but measuring things that seem immeasurable, like jokes. I think the science does show that it's good for our cells, right?
Truly, it does. And it can be measured in terms of oxygenation in the blood. I mean, try to laugh with your mouth closed.
Yeah.
It just isn't the same as really laughing. And so that's filling up your lungs. Your lungs then feed your blood. Your cells are more oxygenated, and the physical act of laughter moves your diaphragm up and down, gives all your little organs kind of a massage, which sort of wrings them out. Then if you're hydrating, you get more good stuff in there. You should always laugh and then drink water.
Water.
Right?
Okay.
Well, I
right,
just
yeah.
thought I better clarify that. Exactly. But those paired together do very well. But then, yes, laughter is a pain reliever because of the endorphins that are naturally released when you laugh.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
really good for us.
I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
even if you have to seek it out. I think that's the point. For people who don't think life is funny or that they're very funny, you can just know that there are plenty of places to go where you can get laughter. And one more plug for, the life we get to lead here in the beautiful Mile High community. Other studies have shown how good spirituality is for your health, mental health. And I believe it's a few factors at play there. You're feeling like you're connected to something greater. And that's been shown to reduce addictive behaviors by 60% because that gap in your life you might be trying to fill with self-medicating gets filled with something much healthier. And then the incidence of depression when one is leading a spiritual life is cut by a whopping 80%. I mean, that's amazing. And I think it's, again, because we come together, we do laugh together, we have the upliftment of music together, and the funny songs, you get a double whammy there if you're listening to those, and some of yours are hilarious, by the way. So those are some of the things that leading a spiritual life promotes in our physical health. They just go hand in hand, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual for an overall better sense of health and well-being.
Yeah.
So I invite people to come and laugh with us.
All right. Any final thoughts?
Well, one more story that I know a lot of people have heard, which is the story of Norman Cousins back in the 60s. And he also wrote the book, Laughter is Good Medicine. He was highly stressed. He was doing government work in Russia. There were trucks going by, and there was no air conditioning, and they were breathing in terrible stuff. And he came down with a horrible disease, ankylosing spondylitis, and it's rare. They didn't have any cure. They didn't really have anything for him except pain pills. So he went to his hotel room. He was back in the States, got all the funny movies, and think of we have so many more choices for what can make us laugh now. He had to go and rent movies to watch, Laurel and Hardy and so forth. And here's what he said. When I could do 10 minutes of belly-ripping laughter, I could get 2 hours of sleep pain-free when nothing else, not even morphine, could help. And it's a pain reducer. Mm-hmm. It really is. It really is a reduces pain. So it's so much fun to study and talk about.
Yeah, and the thing I like about it too is it's us taking personal responsibility for our own health rather than medicating it. That our cells do want to laugh, and we want to feel connected with that humor because life's funny. I think life's hilarious. I really do. All right, so thank you both for being here today and for laughing along. Okay, we will see you again soon on What We're Thinking About.